Good evening, and welcome to our public meeting to review the draft Sonoma County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP. My name is Tracy Cattleman, and I'll be facilitating tonight's meeting on behalf of Permit Sonoma and Digital Mapping Solutions. Thank you for joining us tonight and contributing your time to help prepare where you live for wildfire. Tonight, we're here to share what we've been doing this past year to create the draft CWPP. This meeting is targeted for residents in Sonoma County's 5th Supervisorial District, although everyone is welcome. Tonight's process will work best from your computer or tablet versus a phone. So if you're able to, please join us via your computer. We're recording tonight's meeting and it will be available soon via the Permit Sonoma YouTube channel, where it will also have closed captioning. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Caroleon Safford from Permit Sonoma to introduce some of our partners with us tonight. If you've been working in fire and especially community wildfire preparedness in Sonoma County, you've likely worked with Caroleon. She's been leading this effort for decades, including as the principal author of the original 2016 Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP. And she's spearheading this CWPP update process for the county. Welcome, Caroleon.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank everybody for being here. Supervisor Hopkins, thanks for your time. I wanted to really briefly extra thank all of my the fire officials who've joined us tonight, some for the 5th time. So tonight with us, we have Fire Marshal Cindy Foreman from Sonoma County Fire District, who has just had to come to every one of these, as has Ben Nichols from CAL FIRE. We also have Marshal Turbabell from CAL FIRE, who will be here. Thanks to Chiefs Ron Lunardi and from Occidental, and Chief Bill Bullard from Grayton, who are joining us tonight. Fire Marshal Steve Machursik will also be here, and probably a couple of other folks who haven't been admitted yet, but I want to just thank everybody for offering their time up. You'll have a chance to speak to the fire officials in the room in the breakout rooms later in the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroleon, and thanks to all of our fire partners for joining us tonight. So next slide, please. So first, a few Zoom basics. Please be sure you are muted and to turn off your video. And if you're not familiar with Zoom, you can send direct chat messages to our team via the chat icon on your toolbar, which is likely on the bottom of your screen in the middle. If you need subtitles, you can enable live transcription on the bottom right of your screen by clicking on the live transcript icon, then select show subtitle. Bienvenidos a nuestros vecinos quienes prefieren hablar en español. Perdone, pero no tenemos interpretación hoy. Si necesita ayuda en español, por favor, mándenos un mensaje por chat. Finalmente, tenemos una reunión el 16 de febrero en español. Pueden ver el link en el chat. Next slide. Zoom provides a couple of options for your audio. If you don't have a great internet connection or having a hard time hearing us, click on the up arrow next to the audio icon below the microphone at the bottom left of your screen. From there, you can choose to switch to phone audio and follow the instructions to link your audio and video or computer connection. If you have any other questions or issues using Zoom, please send Christina Smith a message in the chat. Next slide. Tonight's meeting is designed to share with you the draft Sonoma County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP, to encourage your input. We want to hear from you, as this is a community wildfire protection plan. In other words, our purpose is to engage Sonoma County residents in the review of the public draft of the Sonoma County CWPP and its meaningful implementation. Next slide. In terms of our outcomes, or what we expect us all to leave this meeting with tonight, our intention is that Sonoma County residents will have a general understanding of what the CWPP includes, who is leading the process, and how it can be used, the findings of the CWPP and related wildfire risk assessments, the CWPP proposed priority projects and how to include future projects in the process. Next slide. How to submit comments on the public review draft CWPP and that you are empowered to do so. And finally, we as a CWPP team will receive initial feedback from you on the draft CWPP. Next slide. So finally, this is our agenda for tonight. We'll start with a quick overview of how we got here today, followed by a brief presentation by your County Supervisor Hopkins. We'll then provide a series of short presentations about the risk assessment we developed for the CWPP and the process to identify priority projects. We'll then move into breakout room listening sessions regarding the projects for this district and show you how to submit additional projects. This is also an opportunity for you to provide comments on the CWPP and ask any relevant questions. Finally, we'll come back together and hear about the breakouts and then explain in more detail how you can provide comments on the CWPP by February 28th, and then we'll close the meeting by 7:30. We'll stick around another 15 minutes or so after that in our virtual parking lot to answer any final questions anyone might have following the meeting. We know that there are many of you with us tonight who have suffered enormously over the last 5 years from the profound losses due to wildfire. All of us here want to acknowledge your losses and thank you for your strength in coming tonight to collaborate towards finding ways to live with fire in Sonoma County. We're now going to move into the presentations for the evening. We'll begin with a presentation by Carol Safford from Permit Sonoma. Carol will share with you the background and history to get us to this draft CWPP. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you, Tracy. So the overall purpose of a community wildfire protection plan is to bring together wildland-urban interface residents to collaboratively identify wildfire issues and risks and prioritize areas and strategies that we can use to reduce those risks. Next. How we did this CWPP update was the collaborative piece was done through 5 meetings in all 5 supervisory districts. We have a large steering committee that consists of people from a variety of different agencies and non-governmental organizations across the county. And we've done ongoing outreach, especially with the help of groups like Fire Safe Sonoma and the Sonoma County Forest Working Group, to encourage people to give us their input for the plan. Next. So we have made a lot of really awesome changes from the 2016 CWPP. The 2016 plan, of course, was signed almost a year before 2017, and the Sonoma complex fires changed completely our relationship with wildfire and really our whole world. And so these updates reflect some of those changes. There is still a print version similar to the one that was there before, which exists right now on our website as a PDF. And we'll be talking more about that. But really exciting is the interactive story map and hub site, which we've created, which houses all of the really awesome GIS tools that Esther and her team has helped develop. There's a lot of great stuff on there. We'll be talking more about that later. Next. The CWPP is a comprehensive resource which exists to help residents understand risks and undertake wildfire risk reduction work on private and public land by hardening structures, reducing flammable vegetation in residential and in larger wildland areas, and preparing for emergency. And it also really, it's one of its primary purposes is to encourage collaboration between those residents and the groups and agencies across the county, so that as we move into a future that will be characterized by more and more wildland fires, we have a pretty large overriding view of all the projects and all the things that are happening. Next. One of the things I'd really encourage you to take a look at, and Esther will be talking exhaustively about the risk index, but on that risk index page is this WRI statistic bug. You can bump on there. You can learn so much. You can draw a little polygon and see exactly what the risks are and all kinds of stuff. I just wanted to call that out because that is a really important part of what we've done and an awesome tool for all of you out there. So take a look at that. Next. The CWPP itself, it's a relatively long document. It's about 90 pages of the actual CWPP with another couple of 100 pages of appendices which support and supplement the CWPP information. If your attention span is short, which I know most of us have that issue because we're kind of busy, definitely take a look at the executive summary. That's a really good place to start. That'll give you an idea of areas that you want to drill down on. In the subsequent chapter, we discussed demographics, critical infrastructure, land use, There's a lot of information in there about fire ecology. We discussed the wildfire risk assessment, recommendations for key activities, and again, a lot of supporting documentation in the appendices. Next. The most important thing about this CWPP is that it's all of our CWPP. So if we don't hear your thoughts, they are reflected in the CWPP. Please let us know what you think. It's a living document. With your participation, we will continue in the future to upgrade the project list that we have in here, add pertinent new information onto the hub site and into the appendices, and keep it growing, keep it alive. It's an important document, and we really, with your support, we can keep it alive. Next. Public comments, which we'll be talking more about how to do that, must be done by February 28th. We're hoping to present it to the Board of Supervisors for signature and our other signatories on May 3rd, which is Wildfire Prevention Week. Then we'll be annexing the CWPP into the multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan and continuing on with our ongoing maintenance and project review. Next. That was it for me. This is the time to introduce Supervisor Hopkins.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks for setting the stage for us tonight. We will now hear a brief presentation from your County Supervisor, Linda Hopkins, regarding wildfire and preparedness in the 5th District. We appreciate you being with us here tonight. Supervisor Hopkins, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy. And thank you, Carol. I have learned so much from you over the years and just really appreciate the perspective that you bring with respect to wildfire preparedness. And as a resident of the North Coast, really appreciate your knowledge and understanding of our rural communities. It is one of the greatest privileges of my life to be able to represent the 5th District, which is definitely the most beautiful supervisorial district, the most geographically vast and diverse, the most rural, and also arguably the most at risk of catastrophic wildfire. I think the main message that I want to share regarding the CWPP tonight is that it's going to take all of us working together to really make headway and make progress in reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire and to create safer rural communities out here. I want to make it very clear that if you were to come to me and say, hey, Linda, you need to solve this problem. This is your responsibility. You need to do this. We're going to fail. If I go to Chief Bullard or Chief Nichols, or any of our awesome local fire chiefs and CAL FIRE leaders and say, hey, you guys need to solve this problem. It's your responsibility. You need to make us safe. We're going to fail, right? What it's going to take is every single resident taking responsibility for their immediate surroundings, having conversations with their communities and their neighbors, and then learning from our local fire experts and sustainable forestry experts on how we can best manage our land and our communities to make us all safer and more resilient. And the thing about the CWPP that is so great is that it's really designed to bring this collaboration together, to get that cross-agency work, to create a vision that we can work towards together as a community. And the other thing that's really important to know about the CWPP is that this is the gateway to funding, right? So you want your community's vision, you want your community's potential projects to be reflected in the CWPP, because when state or federal funds become available, they're going to be looking to make sure that your project is in alignment with this bigger picture vision that we are striving for with respect to fire safe and fire resilient communities. So my final sort of thing that I want to say is just we are extraordinarily lucky to have an absolute dream team of human beings here tonight. And I'm very proud to say that a lot of these folks either come from or live in or are very connected to West County. So just a huge thank you again to Carol Leone. Also grateful to Roberta McIntyre for all of her fantastic work through Fire Safe Sonoma. Cindy Foreman, our fire marshal out here, Chief Nichols, Chief Turbeville, Chief Bullard, and Chief Lenardi, I know are all here tonight, and they'll be joining us in the breakout session. So looking forward to hearing from them, learning from them, and then all of us working together to try to make our communities more resilient.
Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins, for your opening words this evening and setting the stage for why the CWPP is such an important public process for all Sonoma residents, and especially your emphasis on community, because this is Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And I think I can speak for all of us on the team. We all agree with you that it takes all of us to tackle this. It's a big one. So we do appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you again. So jumping into tonight's review of the CWPP findings, if you've participated in any of our CWPP process up to now, including via the online hub site and story maps that Carolyn mentioned earlier. You've probably heard us talk about the risk assessment. Esther Mandeno, the CWPP project consultant lead team member from Digital Mapping Solutions, will now introduce the results from the risk assessment process she led. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you, Tracy, and hello, everyone. My name is Petronila Esther Mandeno, but you can call me Esther. Today, I'm going to quickly review some of the content we have online that explains our wildfire risk index, as well as some of the tools we have that allow you to explore that index. Then I'll present some general results. We will start at the Sonoma County CWPP hub site. You can access the hub site directly from the main CWPP website by clicking on the big Go button. Once there, you can read through our text that explains a little bit about the project and define some terms. Scrolling down, we come to our maps and tools. The very first image card is our Sonoma County CWPP project list. The second is the Sonoma County Wildfire Hazard Index. And the third is the Sonoma County Wildfire Risk Index, or WRI. Then we have our community base map with a lot of the baseline data we used in the CWPP. There's also the Sonoma County WRI statistics tool. And the next card is a map I put together overlaying fire history on top of our calculated WRI. There are a few more maps and tools up there, but for now, we'll click on the Sonoma County WRI statistics card to view it. This map is a web application that allows you to explore the wildfire risk index in detail. You can use this tool to generate statistics and data to help you when submitting a project into our CWPP project ranking tool. Or you can use it to develop your projects in general, or to get information you may need for a grant application or report. The welcome splash page has some important information you should take the time to read. These maps and tools will remain online so you can explore them anytime and for as long as you need. For now, I want to go through a summary of the results of the WRI for Sonoma County. On this slide, titled Sonoma County Statistics, I showed the average wildfire risk index for Sonoma County, which is 3 or high on our scale. Remember, we are using a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low and 5 being extreme. Incidentally, the average wildfire hazard index and average ember load index for all of Sonoma County is also high. The average road index, which has a similar scale as the other indices but reversed, is 4 or very poor. For the CAL FIRE fire hazard severity zones, I didn't average those values because it's not spatially distributed across the county like our indices are. But the values range from low to high in the state responsibility areas and very high in the local responsibility areas. Finally, we estimated over 200,000 structures in the county with an estimated population of around 490,000. Roughly 187,000 parcels in the county are impacted, which is just about all of them. In the next few slides, I want to show how the data in the WRI can be used to highlight areas of concern in the county. This slide shows the highest WRI. That would be any area with a WRI of 5. And the areas with the highest WRI are highlighted in cyan on the map and include places high up in the Mayacamas Mountains in the northeastern portion of the county, as well as areas surrounding Cloverdale. Just east of Santa Rosa is a large area of concern, as well as the surrounding area around Sonoma Mountain and north and east of the town of Sonoma. West of Highway 1, we have scattered areas north of the Russian River that scored high for wildfire risk, as well as areas just south and west of Petaluma. This next slide looks very similar to the last one, but there's a subtle difference. Instead of just highlighting the areas with the highest risk index, I also selected for the poorest road access. Many of the same areas are highlighted, but a few were removed, particularly around cities which have better road access. This map is an example of how the WRI can be used to focus on areas or communities that are at highest risk and that have the worst road access according to our assessment. I won't read through all the areas listed on this slide, but remember you can explore the WRI in depth anytime using our online tools. This next slide is another example of how the WRI can be refined by selecting for both the highest risk index and the highest ember load index. Again, the areas shown are similar to the other maps, but we are homing in on the areas most at risk to extensive ember loads in the event of a fire. Places in the Mayacamas Mountains, like Black Oats, Big Sulphur Creek, and the lower portion of Mount St. Helena. North of Guerneville, areas surrounding Cazadero, Goat Rock, which is an area near Bear Pen Creek and not the Goat Rock over on the coast, Moorheart Ridge, Ward Creek, northwest of Pole Mountain, north of Rio Nido, northwest of Monterio, and finally south and east of Petaluma. That's all the time I have right now to go through what we learned through the CWPP risk assessment, but I'll be available for questions throughout this meeting and in the next few minutes.
Thank you, Esther, for sharing about the risk assessment and wildfire risk index. We have a few minutes now for questions and answers about the risk assessment and results that Esther shared with you. To send us a written question, please use the chat function via the chat icon on your screen. Please send your questions to me, Tracy Cattleman, via chat. You can also raise your hand to ask your question live. To raise your hand, go to the reactions icon on your Zoom window and then select raise hand. So anybody have any questions about the risk assessment? Don't be shy. Give you all a moment to digest it too. And do check out, Christina put in the chat the links to the hub site, to the wildfire risk index. There's just so much great information up there. And the idea is, as Esther mentioned with the risk assessment, is that, and the risk index and statistics, is that there's a lot of information that you all can use. So we have a question from Anya. Is a risk assessment based on most current fire data from 2017 and 2020?
So the fuel model that we used was developed using the, I believe it was a 2016 vegetation, fine scale vegetation map that was developed by the Sonoma County Agriculture and Open Space District. And the Tubbs fire happened. And so right immediately after that, because we were still in the process of processing the data, we were able to update or alter the fuel models in the area of the Tubbs based on burn severity. But once we finished, and then the Glass fire happened, or the Wallbridge fire happened, the Myers, the Kincaid, the Glass. I mean, so unfortunately, it has not been updated after those fires.
Thank you. And we have a question from Carolyn Sell that I'm not sure if this is specific just to the risk assessment. Are local CWPPs being incorporated into the overall report? Do you want to address that in terms of the risk assessment? And perhaps Carolyn can talk about it in the next part too.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Are local CWPPs being incorporated into the overall report?
That might be a Carleon question.
Yeah, so we'll get to that next, Carolyn. But in terms of the risk assessment, I would say no, you did the risk assessment for the whole county. You didn't use assessments that came from each. Carolyn, do you want to wait and address that in the next session, or do you want to do it now? Either way.
Yeah, but briefly, the answer is yes. All of your local CWPPs are linked on the hub site. We're fixing the links. Apparently the links got confused, but they're linked on the hub site and we refer to them in the document. So they are part of the appendices. So they are part of this plan. And you can keep on working on your plans and your projects as you wish.
Thank you, Caroleon. Okay, we've got a few more questions here. From Alina, I live on Upper Old Cas Road, north of GV, Gordonville. How will this risk assessment help us get repairs from FEMA, as has been suggested by TPW department and maybe transportation head Hoverts? Do you know anything about that, Esther?
I don't know anything about that, but one of the reasons why we created the online tool is that so anyone can use it. You can go to it, you can draw you don't have to use it specifically for the CWPP. It would be great if you did, if you created your project, found out all the information about your project, and then entered it into the project ranking tool. That would be awesome. But also you could just use it to develop a project, find out what we decided the hazard is for the area immediately around your project, how many people are there, how many structures are there, so that you can use it for either to convince your neighbors that, hey, this is something that we need to pay attention to, or to get funding from some other source that I'm not aware of, or that we're not aware of, or that's not part of the CWPP process.
Thank you. Bonnie has a question. What is the difference between a wildfire hazard index and a wildfire risk index?
Yeah, I know it's semantics, right? But there it is important. Typically, hazard just deals with like the potential that the vegetation has, right? The fire potential, and so normally fire hazards only defined by the predicted fire behavior. But the wildfire hazard index is that we developed for the multi-hazard or multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan. When we developed the hazard index for them, we did include other things that we included fire behavior, or predicted fire behavior, but we also included extreme weather potential, potential ignition sources, and suppression difficulty. And then coupled to that, for the CWPP, we wanted to add things that we care about. Not everything that we care about, but the most things that we like, people and structures. And so we ended up not adding population to the risk index, but we did add structures. And we added an ember load index because we thought that was important. And we added a road analysis that the county did previously. That kind of got at how easily it is to get in and out of a location.
Thank you. Any other questions? And you will have plenty of time in the breakouts to bring up additional questions if you have them about what was presented this evening.
Oh, and just real quick, both of those things, the hazard index and the risk index, are both explained in the story maps on the hub site.
And hub site's an awesome resource. So go there and use it. We'll be talking about it a lot tonight. Cool. Well, thank you for your questions. Can we have the next slide, please? So part of the CWPP process is to identify a list of prioritized projects to reduce hazardous fuels and identify actions to reduce structural ignitability, meaning losing less homes and other buildings to fire. Caroleon introduced our project ranking tool earlier. Esther will now explain that tool in more detail. Please give your attention to Esther again regarding priority projects and recommendations in the draft CWPP and how to submit your projects.
Hello again. I'm going to go over how we handle the input that we received from you all. As you may know, last year we held 5 public meetings asking you about fire prevention and fuel mitigation projects you thought should be implemented in your neighborhood and Sonoma County. We summarized the input and used your project ideas to create our CWPP recommendations. The summary of projects from each meeting can be reviewed via the hub site meeting summaries. Let's go there now. Remember, you can access the hub site via the Big Go button from the main CWPP website, or you can use the URL that we'll copy into the chat box. You'll find the meeting summaries towards the bottom on the hub site. Just keep scrolling down and you can click on any of the map images and a PDF document will open containing the summary for that meeting. We also have the data summarized by an Excel sheet that we can provide upon request. Note that many of the project ideas submitted during our public meetings were just that, ideas. As great as they are not fully developed projects ready for funding that we can add to our project list. So instead of listing these project ideas on our project list, the CWPP recommendations were developed with your project ideas in mind. Please review these carefully to make sure your project idea is reflected in one of those recommendations. You can find the recommendations in Chapter 5 of the draft CWPP. The CWPP recommendations are general actions that affect the entire county or could affect the entire county. For example, many concerned participants cited the need for improved road access and evacuation preparedness and education. So our recommendations for evacuation readiness within Sonoma County include developing targeted evacuation preparedness education materials for diverse populations, improving street and route signage throughout the county, and identifying evacuation routes to communities that are constrained by few or narrow routes. The project list in Appendix A of the CWPP contains all the fully developed projects submitted formally to us, either via email or the mapping tool we used last year. If you have a fully developed project that did not get on the list, either whether it's funded or seeking funding, we want to know about it. A fully developed project is one that has a targeted area identified with well-developed project goals, a description, timeline, and a preliminary budget. To submit your project so that it will be listed in the CWPP, we ask that you please use our project ranking tool, which can be accessed from the Sonoma County CWPP project list page. It is the first image card you'll encounter on our hub site. And once there, you'll find the actual project list in a spreadsheet format. This is a read-only Google Sheet containing all the projects submitted to the Sonoma County CWPP. The first tab has all the projects listed in the order they were submitted. And the second tab explains how the point system works and how a first, second, or third priority is assigned based on those points and the overall project budget. Directly under the spreadsheet is a section containing links to the project ranking tool. Please read through the text we provided to help you fill out the form on the project ranking tool. The list of questions is provided as a separate PDF document that you can review on a separate browser tab. Clicking on the project ranking tool button will take you to a 10-page form. Yes, that's right, 10 pages. It will take you some time to fill this out. So again, please read through the text on the previous page to ensure you are ready to answer all the questions. The last section on the Sonoma County CWPP project list webpage is a map of all the projects listed. From this map, you can click on any project submitted and get all the information entered for that project. Use this map to find out what specific and detailed projects are planned in the vicinity of your area of interest. That's all the time I have right now. Remember, you have until February 28th to submit a project to be included in the 2022 CWPP, after which you can still submit a project using our online project ranking tool. However, anything submitted after February 28th will not be included in this version in the 2022 CWPP. But it will be included after review, next year's review. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther, for that introduction to projects. Pardon the phone ringing. Caroline will now explain the projects in even more detail, including the projects proposed for this district. Take it away, Caroline.
So this is where we'd really like to see activity ramped up in this process. This is a map of all of the projects, all these blue areas that have been entered into the tool so far. And we do have some in the 5th district, which is great. There are 3 projects down here. I think I have them called out on the next slide. But this is what we're really hoping, is that as we move on, we're going to get more of these projects in so we can get a better global view of what everybody's doing, wants to do. And from that, we can all learn better how to work with others to make one large project instead of 3 small projects and all kinds of stuff. Next slide, please. Oh, I changed that on the other one, but not on this one. The 3 projects that we have in there, 3 of those are from the Occidental Camp Meeker neighborhood. And thank you guys for putting those in there. And the one that was in the north east corner is a Sonoma water project about long-term fire management. So that's what we have so far. Next. Why it's so important to do all of this. This accurate project list is really going to help us see countywide trends. Are there areas in the county that are underserved for projects that we know are at high risk? Is there duplication? Are we having the same project 3 times showing up in the same footprint? And those are the ones that might be more efficiently combined into a single project and might be more fundable that way if we have more collaboration between groups. So we're really hoping that this tool will help us to encourage cooperation, increase dialogue about what we're doing and where we're doing it. One of the things that I'm really happy about for this is that this year's Open Space District grant program for the PG&E funds did opt in to use the tool. They have their own version of it, and we'll be moving those projects over into the CWPP at some point in the future. So those will get populated into it. But I know that there are a lot of projects in the West County that haven't yet been entered that I'm hoping to see get entered in there sometime soon, because this, I think, is a really, really important step and has been identified by numerous other planners as one of the things that we really want to know. Who's doing what where in the county globally. Next. So one of the things we'll be doing over time to keep this alive is hold regular meetings to sort of look at projects that have been entered, check the ranking on those, and pull out projects that have been taken off the list by the people who wrote them or have been funded, make a note of that, and really make a large collaborative group to look at all these projects and look at how we can make them better projects. FireSafe Sonoma, we're hoping might take a lead in this, but I think it will be a large group combined of a lot of different agencies along with groups like FireSafe Sonoma to get it done. But this is what we're really hoping to inspire in the future, is this more collaborative approach to addressing wildfire across Sonoma County's very varied landscapes and urban and rural areas. Next. So the ranking tool does provide a ranking score based on, it's based on the hazard risk in that area from the, excuse me, that would be the wildfire risk index that's in the GIS tools that we've created. So if you use that project tool that I mentioned earlier, you can circle up your project on that and very easily see what the average risk is in that project footprint. A lot of other great information in there too. Projects need to be well developed to get them into the project list. I think the hardest thing for folks is getting their 3-page narrative project description into a very short box. We have really tight description character limits in here. We do that on purpose. We really need to have brief descriptions of what you're doing and how you're doing it. So that's probably going to take you a while to get your long project description into a shorter format. The risk rankings are based on what the average risks are for the area, both ours and CAL FIRE's, but also what does the project do? You get points for projects that address a variety of the different priorities that are identified in the CWPP. So if you have a project that's just created a shaded fuel break, you'll get 1 point for that. If you also are doing outreach and education, you'll get another point for that. And if you're also addressing structure hardening, you'll get another point for that. So the more things you do, the more complex your projects are, the higher points you get. That said, you really do have to be very realistic in your project design. Don't be tempted to get a higher ranking score by including things that perhaps make that project more complicated and difficult for you to run. Next. The story map is again on the hub site. So that's a really important place to go and check that out and take a look at it. One other thing I'd like to add is that the CWPP, the purpose is not to get your project in there and somebody else is going to take over getting a grant ready and getting it funded. That still rests with all of you folks out there in the community to get done. So if you're in an area where you really want to have a project done, and you need to join up with your neighbors to create a fire safe council, a fire-wise community, whatever you need to do to get that group together to start thinking about what can we do and join together to start designing a project and get it into the tool. I also want to mention at this point that some of the best projects I've seen for sort of bang for the buck, if you will, are sweat equity local groups. Boy, there's a lot of vegetation on this road. Let's meet up next Saturday and try to take care of that on our own. Or we have someone down the road who needs help. Let's meet up and get it done. So also, I'd really like to encourage folks to think about low cost projects that can be done with local labor. But this is really about joining together, finding the groups that can start to launch these projects so that all of us who live in Sonoma County are taking responsibility for our homes, our defensible space, and our wildland areas collaboratively. Next. Cool. I never know where I end and somebody else starts.
And actually, we're well ahead of time, so I thought maybe we'd take a couple questions in general. If people have questions about like what's the difference between the CWPP recommendations versus the priority projects and how to submit projects through the ranking tool. If you have kind of more general questions, not specific to your project, we can talk about those in the breakout rooms that we're going to be moving into next. So again, if you have a question, you can send it to me, Tracy Cattleman, in the chat, or you can raise your hand. And let me get a gallery view here. So does anybody have any questions about that? What the projects are, the recommendations, how to get them included? Go ahead, Wendy, you can unmute yourself, and if you'd like, turn on your video.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'm going to spare you the video, but yeah, I'm unclear about, and I was just about to put this in chat, but how is a project defined? In other words, can it just be like clearing on one person's private property? You know, is there a size, minimum size? Does it need to be neighborhood wide? And I'm sure this is all spelled out someplace, but since we're talking, I'm wondering if you can just kind of define the parameters of what a project entails. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Carol Leon. What entails the project?
Yeah, projects are not a single homeowner with a single property almost ever. They're some kind of a group or an agency that's come together to design a larger, usually multiple parcel project that will address risks in that area. And that's simply mostly because funders aren't going to fund most of the time a single person to do work on their project. The basic description of a project is you've gotten a group together, you have risks that you want to mitigate, you have a plan to mitigate them, you have a basic budget formed, you have collaborated with others in your area. And really, if you take a look at the ranking tool and go to the questions, there's a link you can get to. Esther showed it in her presentation. And that'll show you the question we're asking. That pretty much tells you what you need to know to define a project as opposed to doing work on your own parcel. Doing work on your own parcel, by the way, there are a lot of tools being created by other folks as well, like UC Cooperative Extension, and a group of folks are making the Wildfire Mapper tool, which is really designed to look at fuels reduction on a larger individual parcel basis. If you Google that, you'll find it, or I can try to find the link and put it in. There's lots of tools being developed to help people figure out what to do on individual parcels as well. Did that answer your question?
And I would add,
Thank
Wendy,
you.
For private property, single parcels, 10, I think it's 10 acres, it could be different or larger. There are state and federal funds to help private landowners to do fuel reduction and those kind of projects on their land. And I think if you contact the Sonoma RCD, and I believe Jason's on the call tonight, they can help you with that. So that's another route. Cindy, go ahead. You could unmute and turn on your video.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Caroleon. I wanted to just take a moment because we're spread sort of thin tonight, and we have really important areas in Forestville, along with our kind of Guerneville area of our fire district. And I don't want anybody to feel like they're left out, but we've got a couple incidents rolling tonight, and I'm sort of the one-man show tonight. So I just want to take a moment while I have this captive audience and kind of give you a widespread message, so that if I can't pop into both areas at the same, or both breakouts at the same time, I just want to let you know that you are valued and you are important to us, and your the community needs are on a grand scale with us. And I think that the message I really want to send is that we know that fire knows no boundaries. It does not know jurisdictional lines. It does not matter that we are Monterey, that we are Sonoma County Fire District, that we are Santa Rosa. Fire doesn't care about any of that. And our fires haven't even always started in our own county, for crying out loud. And our fire district, Sonoma County Fire District in particular, has, experienced multiple campaign catastrophic fires, starting with the Tubbs, the Nuns, the Kincaid, the Walbridge, and the Glass. And we are solidly invested in this critical document, in this critical process. We have to come up with solutions that don't just solve immediate vegetation needs and threats, but sustainable solutions that are collaborative, sustainable, and renewable. There is no one seasonal fix to our vegetation issues in Sonoma County. We are 100 years behind on prescribed burning, and the benefits of prescribed burning, that is a statistic we will never make up in our careers, people on here right now, but it's not something that we shouldn't work toward. And introducing fire back into our environment is a valuable tool that will be not only beneficial for maintaining fuels, and but it will also be an environmentally beneficial asset to our community. Grants tend to, and I love grants, and we all thrive on grants, and that is what gets work done. But grants sometimes can be very focal, and they can be identify immediate need projects. But we have to have this mindset of looking globally. And this project, the CWPP, this process is something that is a global approach to fuel reduction and mitigation tools in our community. So thank you. And I'll try to jump on to both our Southeast, and I will try to jump in also on our North Hills groups. But I apologize that we're just spread a little thin tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy, and good luck to you guys with whatever those incidents are tonight. So we're actually out of time now for the questions. There were a couple more that came in, and I'm going to mention them so the facilitators, you guys can discuss this in your breakouts, which we're moving into next. There was one question that says, it seems there's no project to develop an evacuation plan for West County. Are citizens supposed to propose this? And the second question is, where does funding come from to pay for approved projects? And there are no approved projects. I'll just say that right now. These are projects that are being listed as important projects in the county, and we can discuss that in the breakouts, which we're going to go into next. So this slide up here is our intro for the breakouts. And you're going to have lots of opportunities there to provide comments and ask questions. And if you've already reviewed the CWPP or started your review, we welcome you to share any initial feedback with us on the draft CWP. So we're going to be breaking into these 4 groups tonight. The Southeast group, which will be led by Roberta, includes Southwest Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, Grayton, and Forestville. South Central, which will be led by Carleon and Bradley, includes Occidental, Bodega, Camp Meeker, and Montedio. The coast, which I'll be leading, includes Sea Ranch, Timber Cove, Jenner, and Bodega Bay. And then finally, the Northern Hills and River area, which Esther will be leading, includes Guerneville, Rio Nido, Casadero, Stewart's Point, and Skag Springs. And so, well, let's go to the next slide before I get into how to do that yet. So before we move into the breakout rooms, we have some ground rules we'd like you to abide by tonight so we can have an effective and respectful process. Those are that this is an opportunity to share your ideas, opinions, and questions, that everyone in the room has an equal voice, and we ask you to respect others' ideas and opinions. And if anyone cannot abide by these ground rules tonight, please let us know that in the chat. So let's go to the next slide. So we're going to be moving into our breakout rooms. This shows you how to use the breakout rooms and where to find the icons. So use the breakout rooms icon at the bottom of your screen. It looks like 4 squares. Then you use that to select, change, or leave the breakout rooms. So again, use that 4 square icon to select the breakout room you'd like to join of those 4 that I mentioned: Northern Hills and Rivers, Coast, Southeast, South Central. If you need help getting into your breakout room after we launch them, please send Christina Smith a chat message, or she'll be in the main room and you can unmute and ask her to help you. Once you enter the breakout room, please wait for your room facilitator to begin. Feel free to turn on your video once you join your breakout room, but keep yourself muted until you're ready to speak. And facilitators, please remember to turn on your recording. Next slide. If you're on a mobile device, the breakout icon is usually on the left side near the top of your screen, as shown in this slide. So next slide. So again, our breakout rooms are divided by the planning divisions that we created for these workshops based on population centers and ecosystem types. So in other words, where vegetation may react differently to fire. And as I mentioned tonight, we have the 4 groups: Southeast, South Central. Oh, this is our old slide. Oops.
Yeah.
Maybe you could go back to, Christina, go back a few to the there we go. So Southeast, South Central, Coast, and then Northern Hills and River. So take a look at that, decide which room you want to go into. Christina's going to launch the breakout rooms in a moment, and it'll invite you to join whichever one you want. So just select join and you can get in. You can also move between them if you don't live in one or you'd like to be in more than one. And then we'll come back at 7:15 and hear from everybody what happened in the other breakouts. So we're going to go ahead and launch them. Again, Christina can help you. So go ahead, Christina, and launch them. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see. We have all of our, do we have Roberta's group back yet?
Yeah, our group's back.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. Thanks, everyone, for your participation in the breakout rooms tonight. We're now going to hear back from your breakout room facilitators with a brief summary of their conversation. So let's start with Roberta in Southeast.
Yeah, we just had the fire folks kind of give folks an update, and then we really had a chat. I don't think we really had anything really remarkable to comment on. One of the things, somebody had a question about, developing a project, how to do that. And, I suggested that, they look at the project tool, the ranking tool, and see what questions are asked to submit it, and be aware that, depending on, how each element is weighted, your project may score really high or not so high. So we talked a little bit about that. And then, yeah, that's really the most remarkable thing I have to share. Sorry.
That's good. Let me get my video back on here. Thank you. How about Carleon and Bradley for South Central?
We talked a lot about, we talked with Battalion Chief 1410, and Chief Lunardi sort of talked about their overall goals, which are about protecting life, property, and the environment. We talked a lot about the complications of difficult projects that are involve creeks, and how do we do fuels management in areas where we have salmon bearing streams and stuff like that, and generally what we want to do. And then right at the very end, the folks started speaking up and bing, we were out of the room. Sorry, Carl.
Thanks, Caroleon. I'll mention briefly for the Coast Room, we talked a bit about getting projects submitted and the timeline. Like someone has a project where they've done part of it, and should they submit the rest of it? And we definitely agreed that submit your big picture vision of your projects, and if it's in phases, submit the whole part of it, even if part of it's been started and funded. And also think ahead, you know, what you envision for your community over the next 5 years or so, and using the hub site and using that wildfire risk index statistical tool to help you develop your projects, and working with local fire. And also, I'm going to put in the chat right now this resource that the North Coast Resources Partnership has technical assistance available to help people develop projects. So if you've got an idea for a project that there's a lot of community support for, and you need some technical professional support to help put that together, reach out to NCRP and apply there to do that. And Caroline, we had a question of what's the total number rank you can get in the ranking tool, because someone submitted a project through Ag and Open Space and got a number back and wondered the relevance.
Esther, do you remember what that number is? I can bang in and take a look and check. I think it was an odd number. It was like 36. Do you remember, Esther? Oh, and also the Ag and Open Space version of the ranking tool, they added several questions that we don't have on mine. So theirs might be a little different.
That is correct. The Ag and Open Space District has a very different total. And yeah, I believe our total is somewhere, I'm sorry, I'd have to look it up. I can't really remember, but it's lower than 50. And the point system doesn't really matter, or the range, it's just how we ended up dividing it out. And again, on the second tab of that spreadsheet on the project list story map, it explains how the points, how many points you get for each question, and what value you put in each question, and the total at the end.
Oh, great. Thank you. There was also a question, Esther, if somebody has several polygons for a project, the best way to do that, I suggested, like, you know, this is part A, part B, part C, something like that.
Yeah, you know, in hindsight, we definitely should have added either a repeat function or an option where they could upload their data. So the next version will be better.
Okay, thank you. So let's hear from Esther. Now it's back to you for Northern Hills and River.
Sure, yes, we had a really good discussion. And I hear everybody, it is hard. Everything is hard. And it's hard to get people engaged. It's hard to keep people, to get people to even know or understand or find information, and to get money. Like, it's all hard. And so that's a lot of the things that we talked about. But we talked about radios, we talked about places that have one way in and one way out, and that have vacation rentals, and trying to communicate with that population. We talked about the Annapolis CWPP that's up and coming. If anyone is from Annapolis and would like to help, please see Susie Gilly, I believe is the last name. And then we also have Fire Safe Guerneville and Fire Safe Forestville they're just trying to get going, and so they need help too. So anyone from those communities, please. I think it's best. You know, it changes when you move from one place to the, and I can't see her full name, but her first name is Vesta. So try to chat with her if you can. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Esther. So thank you, everybody, for those summaries and for participating in the breakout rooms. To finish our meeting, Christina Smith from Permit Sonoma is now going to explain how you can submit your comments on the draft CWPP through February 28th and what the process will be to complete the CWPP. So let's get the slides up and please give Christina your attention. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, everybody. So we're just going to go over quickly the review and signing process. First, we're almost done with these meetings. You guys are our last supervisory district meeting, but we do have one more meeting. It is a Spanish speaking only meeting happening on February 16th, 6 p.m. If you want a link to that, just let me know in the chat and I can send that to you. We'll also be promoting it. We also ask that you put in all of your comments and your project ideas into the project ranking tool and on the draft by February 28th. Please, please, please do that. So that way all of your ideas and your comments and suggestions get implemented into the final draft. Next slide. And then I'm going to talk about how you comment on the draft. So what you'll do is you'll go to the Permit Sonoma CWPP project website. And we'll share those links later with you. You're going to go ahead and in the greenish yellowish box, there's a link to the draft. You'll click on that. It'll take you to the draft. It'll be an Adobe PDF. On the right side, there's a panel and it'll have a box that says add a comment. You'll go ahead and click on that and it'll take you to another kind of pop-up box where it'll ask for you to put your name. If you want to be sort of anonymous, you can put your initials instead and click on continue as guest. Next slide. If you want to take a little bit more time with the CWPP, totally fine too. You can download it and there's a arrow at the top right and that's how you can download it, and you can email us your comments at permitsonoma-wildfire-plan@sonoma-county.org. Next. And then once we get all your comments in, we'll be taking the final draft to our steering committee and then presenting it to the Board of Supervisors during Wildfire Prevention Week, which is the first week of May. At that point, when everything's said and done, we'll ask for final signatures from the board, as well as, you know, the other fire officials like CAL FIRE and the Sonoma County Fire Chief. And then after all that's been signed off, we'll be incorporating it into the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. Next. Again, cannot say this enough. Please, please, please put those comments in by February 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, for that great summary. Does anyone have any questions for us about the process? If so, you can raise your hand or send them to me, Tracy Cattleman, in the chat. Any questions? Go ahead, Ellie. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. And
yeah, I was trying to follow her for the part about putting your comments in, and I wonder, could you just really quickly show those slides again, because I couldn't find the box where you could put, you know, your comments.
go back one more.
Yeah, one more. So are you on the draft right now?
I'm on the page where it says go, and I click go.
Okay, click. Oh, so you're on the hub site. Here, I am going to put in the link for you.
Oh, wait, that's what I missed.
Now that the go goes to the hub site, you need to go
To
down,
I
scroll
see.
down a little bit on that page.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see where it says comment and review. That's the
Yep.
that's what I missed.
Sorry, yeah, it's in the greenish yellowish box.
Gotcha. I found it. Thank you.
Not a problem. And I also put the link to the website, the Permit Sonoma website in the chat.
And if you get stuck, you can send an email to that email too, and we can help you. And then the other option is also, of course, to download it from that page and add your comments in the PDF and email it. But our preference is to get them all together. Go ahead, Craig.
A question for Esther. Yeah, you mentioned that maybe you guys could have allowed for external data to be added. Is that something you think might happen before the 28th, that we could just upload our own shape files? Or is it better just to go in there and draw the thing out with, you know, the tool as it stands? Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I could look into it right now, actually, because it's a survey 123. It's a limitation of the capabilities of survey 123, and so until Esri adds that functionality, there's not really much I can do about it. I mean, we could redesign the entire thing so that we use a different application, but that's not going to happen by February 28th. So yeah, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Okay, any other questions or comments? Please either use the cloud or send us an email through that, through the Permit Sonoma email. And if we could get to that last slide. So we appreciate everyone taking the time tonight to work with us on completing this CWPP. So Sonoma County has a Community Wildfire Protection Plan that is created and led by you, the dedicated residents of Sonoma County. Please let your friends, family, and colleagues know that they can continue to participate in this process through February 28th, and that they can get more information via the links on this slide and in the chat. You can also email us directly via the email on the slide and in the chat, and I'm going to read those links for y'all. So the Permit Sonoma CWPP website is https://sonoma-county.ca.gov/PRMD/fire-prevention/wildfire-protection-plan/. And the hub site that we talked a lot about tonight, you can access through you can get it through that Permit Sonoma website, and also directly https://arcg.is/mzc4l0. To access the draft CWPP in the Adobe Cloud to add your comments on the CWPP, you can go directly to https://adobe.ly//3pwguau. And finally, any questions, comments can be sent to us through the CWPP project email, which is permit-sonoma-wildfire-plan@sonoma-county.org. If you need help accessing these sites, please do email us. And finally, if you'd like to hang out and talk with us in our virtual parking lot, we'll be staying on for another 15 minutes or so to answer any questions you may have. Thank you again for being with us tonight to help complete the Community Wildfire Protection Plan to prepare Sonoma County communities for wildfire. Good night.